How is everybody doing today? I was like, I don't know if O is about to say
Bueno.
From my old radio show days, they would yell at us for dead air, like it would be like a thing. So I had to fill the space. It's all you, Omar. Go ahead, brother.
Oh shit! All right, bueno, everybody. Happy Mexican Independence Day, and we do our check-ins because Jube loves our check-ins. Look how radiant she is today. Having all the snacks and all the purples. So I'm gonna kind of hand it off to my co-hosts to say how they are doing, and then I'm gonna jam into teacher mode and once again discuss what is the difference between the 16 de septiembre, the true Mexican Independence Day, and what is Cinco de Mayo in under 2 minutes. But to my Mexican brother on the right, the beard of knowledge, Mr. Castillo, how you doing, brother?
Oh yeah, I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Yep, today is Mexican Independence Day, so I look forward to your upcoming lecture. Hopefully, it'll be interactive.
Oh, is it today?
Yeah, it's happening right now. And let's see. A lot has happened in the world since we met last, right? So maybe things will come up as we get into discussion. But things are good. Just got out of the pool, swam for about half an hour. So I'm feeling good and looking forward to today's topic.
This man swimming. Is it Chicago swimming weather?
In Chicago, it's like 80 degrees today. So
that's not bad. That's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have pretty nice. Not to make anybody feel bad, but we have what they call Indian summers here all the time. Yeah. So it starts to get a little bit nicer, especially going into October, and then you get the drop. But it was actually a cooler summer this year. So the fact that it's still 80 degrees is kind of surprising. But we have that here.
Right on, man. How are you doing, Doc? You doing all right otherwise?
I'm good, man. Me and David was kind of bonding over social media. It was the fight of the year, Netflix. And it was on Netflix, which was great. We didn't have to pay for, it was 41 million people watched it.
Wow.
They did not do the MGM. They did it at what a Raiders play in Vegas, which is like, you can fit like 3 MGMs in there and every seat was taken. Yep. The presentation of it was beautiful. Now, I will say Midwestern and East Coast people were complaining because that fight didn't start till 1 a.m. if you were in New York. But if you live in California, it was great. It was just perfect. It was like, the kids are the beds. You know what I'm saying? Like, you probably had your Modelos. And this is the one thing I really like about boxing, though, is like, it's a big thing, I think, for Mexican and Black. And it was cool. Like, there was the Irish fighter that we saw. There was like, other countries. I had like Pacquiao with the Philippines, but like Black and Brown, like really, like, Floyd, and I gotta give Floyd and Oscar De La Hoya a lot of credit for that. Like, they cultivated and knew to kind of how to get their bases going. And I just think it's a big night for Black and Brown relations. We don't always get along on that night, but it was all in good fun. And but I love both fighters. But Bud, man, he's the best of his generation, and he proved it. So, if you're not a boxing fan, you probably like, I don't know what this dude is talking about, but it was a really good night for me and David anyway. So, we had fun.
I'm glad to hear. David, any thoughts on the fight?
The actual fighting was excellent. I think every match went the distance. So that's good to see, including the top of the bill.
Yeah.
And I just think about like the discipline that it takes to be a world-class boxer. You sit in this ring and you're literally trying to like knock someone out for 12 rounds. And then when it's over, once it's over, you can like respect each other. They hug it out. And these two, the two guys on the top bill,
Canelo and Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, they just were they demonstrated sportsmanship to a T. Yeah. Such a class act from both fighters. And that for me, that was my big takeaway. I'm like, this is what boxing should be like. This
Absolutely.
Is actual real sport,
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. I agree. Like, I appreciate Floyd. I appreciate the antics, and I get it. I understand. That's why he's the money man. But like, you could tell they had genuine respect. They was trying to take each other's head off. And the two fights before, not the one right before the big card, but the one before.
Oh my goodness!
It was barbaric, bro. They're gonna be stars. If you did not watch that in Billy whatever fight, oh my God, it was. Yeah. I felt those hits from both people. It was brutal. It was so brutal. I get to be a guy today. I'm sorry. I know we got.
No, man. Hey, listen, man. Everyone talking about the fight. Everyone talking about stuff. Jubilee, did you watch this fight, or are you going to come at us with love?
People should just be hugging and loving each other, and I don't understand. Like,
you know what I was doing? I was watching butterflies. Now, the update from last week is that all of the caterpillars they're gone because a bird had to have been hungry, and I came back and they were gone.
Oh, yeah, they're really high protein snacks for birds
because they turn into butterflies. No,
oh, they got eaten. My heart is broken. However, God knows how to use
cycle of life
for evil for good. Because yesterday I celebrated my 44th birthday.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Thank you. And I went to a resort and spa place, and spa treatment. A really nice massage with CBD oil. Try it. You'll like it. And I went to the patio, and there were so many butterflies, and the same kind of butterfly that got eaten on my balcony. They were flying all around. And so, yeah, I had a great birthday. Yes, I think everyone should love and hug. Unfortunately, that is not where our world is. So I'm saddened by so many things that are happening, and how when these kinds of events happen, such as what's his name? Charlie Kirk. Is that his name?
That was his name, yes.
Sorry, Meadow is having about. Anyway, that people's true colors come out, and it's quite sad. I think it's quite sad. Anyhow, that's my check-in. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to have been granted the privilege of kicking cancer's ass twice.
Yes.
And today, my baby boy, my firstborn son, turned 16.
Wow.
So yeah. So lots to celebrate amidst all of the turmoil in our country. Ready for it?
I'm glad to hear it.
I tried to rub THC oil on my face one time, and it had a different effect. I think I got the wrong one.
I don't think that's the one.
And by rub THC oil, was it white and going into different areas, or what kind of situation do you have going on over there, man?
It was there. It was a therapeutic session. Yeah. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah. It was peyote.
Yeah, right.
I know it.
Maybe.
I love it, man. Speaking of turmoil, a quick history lesson for everyone. So today is Mexican Independence Day, and you're wondering what the hell is the difference between Mexican Independence Day and Cinco de Mayo. David or Doc, do you know what the difference is?
About 5 beers.
That is actually correct. That's the best answer I've ever heard. It depends on who you're talking to and what country that beer drinking is in.
The Cinco de Mayo is it marks the victory of the Battle of Puebla against the French. I think the army of Maximiliano, right? And then Cinco de Mayo.
Yep.
In Cinco de Mayo is Mexican independence from Spain.
Yes. So here's how this went down, ladies and gentlemen. About 1521, a guy named Hernando Cortez jams into Mexico, destroys the Aztec Empire, Montezuma, and within literally a decade, you've got Spanish colonial buildings and infrastructures gone up because they took these stones from the Aztec pyramids and made buildings. So if you've ever heard of Teotihuacan, not Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan is Mexico City. The Aztec Empire, Teotihuacan are the pyramids that still exist. Those ain't Aztec. Those are
Nope.
Toltec, Olmec, because all Aztec stuff has been destroyed by the Spaniards in order to build Spanish buildings. So 300 years, basically from 1521 to 1821, marked the 300-year time span that the Spanish dominated and ruled essentially the indigenous people of Mexico. Then there was a Creole man, a Creole. This is a Spanish-born person, a Spanish person born in Mexico, named Father Miguel Hidalgo, who led a literal machete revolution against the Spanish. The indigenous folks did not have guns, they did not have the infrastructure that the Spanish army did, and with a band of machetes, and then eventually aligning Mexican-born folks against Spanish-born folks, found the money and the infrastructure needed to defeat the Spanish. So if you're in Mexico, today is your 4th of July. Cinco de Mayo is an American holiday, and I mean truly American. After the Americans essentially stole Mexico during the Mexican-American War and the nefarious things that they did there, Mexico had a really big debt because they just owed a ton of money. And the French came in and they were like, hey, we'll buy your debt, but we're going to run Mexico. And they were like, oh, okay. And they allowed it. And Porfirio Diaz was a man who loved the French, so he was happy to have the French influence. Napoleon III came in and had a guy named Maximilian go to Mexico and control stuff. And then ultimately, in a very interesting precept of history, Mr. Benito Juarez and his buddy, I think it was Morelos, were like, we should be running Mexico, not these French guys, despite the fact that the French came in and legitimately bought the country. So we're going to just like get rid of this French influence and run it ourselves in an insanely corrupt manner. And I think Benito Juarez is a widely celebrated guy, so is Morelos. But if you dip into the history of that era and of that time, they were just corrupt politicos. And you can make it out that they were the good guys, but not really. Long story short, they fought a little battle in Puebla and drove the Spanish out. But that was like a calling card for Mexican Americans in the United States to be like, look, dude, like if they can win this, then we can overcome what was going on at the time in the United States, the Civil War. So Cinco de Mayo is truly an American holiday and has very little to do with Mexican independence. There's your tiny history lesson. And now, Doc, do you feel like you've got enough ammo in the arsenal to understand why the Mexicans were celebrating in the boxing world the 16 de septiembre as opposed to Cinco de Mayo?
I mean, yeah, they I mean, like I said, the Mexican holidays is always just prime boxing events. Like it's just the rules. So, but usually Cinco de Mayo is, you know, I mean, like I said, between Floyd and Oscar, like they made sure they just know that the people gonna show up. I love it. I think it's I like that. Like I said, I like when people can kind of show their pride for that, go for their person. And again, I like that there were a few other countries that were introducing new people. Also, RIP Ricky Hatton. He just passed away very randomly. He was actually about to return to the ring. He had some substance abuse issues and he was in the middle of training. But ironically, the Irish have a new boxer, a new fighter that fought Fernando Vargas's kid. I was highly disappointed by Vargas's kid, by the way, FYI. You should not have that name. But yeah,
take that.
But you know, but listen, man, countries, you know, soccer and boxing are the places where countries get really like, yo, like you know, and those people get behind them. And but I appreciate the lesson. Thank you.
Yeah, it gets real enthusiastic, man. Real enthusiastic and shit. But today,
before we get into our topic, one other note: this is the first time in the history of the country of Mexico to have celebrated its independence under the leadership of a female president. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. No idea.
First time they've ever had a female president.
That's right.
Indeed. So we're going to just transition into our topic today, which y'all take a look at this. What are we talking about today? We are talking about the separation of church and state. Christ's sakes. I can't believe it's still a topic. It's 2025. And like the First Amendment was ratified in 1789. So what's going on? It's actually kind of cool because it's not so much about just what's happening in the state of Texas, but how teachers are reacting to what's going on. So there is a recent bill, Senate Bill 10, in the state of Texas that was signed in 2025, and it is requiring all public schools, including the El Paso Leadership Academy, to, under certain provisions, post the 10 Commandments in every single classroom. Yeah, Jubilee, you've heard this one before. So what's the good, the bad, and the ugly factually? So the poster or publication must be at least 16 by 20 inches. So we cannot get away with just shrinking it down to a tiny, 1 by 1 and posting that in the classroom. Must be 16 by 20, which is larger than a paper. Paper's 8 by 11. It must be hung in a, quote, conspicuous place in the classroom, whatever that means. And it is required that the 10 Commandments is a Protestant Christian version. So not even Catholic or Orthodox, it must be the Protestant version. What Ken Paxton, who is the Secretary of State, has said is that he is behind this law because it is, quote, the moral and legal history and heritage of the state of Texas, which I'm going to get into because I think Ken Paxton needs a history lesson on the state of Texas, and I'm going to give him one in this show, which is going to be fun. But what the article is really getting about, and it's kind of my fun little introductory question for you all, is that teachers are finding really creative ways of posting this and some other things around it in order to not only comply with the law, but be creative. So if you looked at the article, there's, like, for example, I'm looking at a door, and this teacher's door has the 10 Commandments, and it's posted kind of towards the middle bottom of the door. And then above it in a hot pink, because the 10 Commandments is in a nice kind of old, not Sanskrit, kind of a papyrus color, like a brown. In a hot pink, it's got the principles of Hinduism above it. And then below the 10 Commandments, also in hot pink, are the 5 pillars of Islam and the 4 noble truths of Buddhism. So it becomes kind of what I saw myself in Texas when we did world history, which was the comparative nature of religions as opposed to the thrusting of one or the other. One teacher posted the 10 Commandments and then put all the symbols for all other religions around it. Buddhism, neo-paganism, Wiccan, Islam, Judaism, so on and so forth, and put all of those symbols around it in a very colorful fashion. Some parents went as far as printing the First Amendment on a button that were then handed out to teachers and students across the state, once again saying, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press and the right of the people to peacefully assemble. So there are some really fun, creative ways. And just my initial kickoff is, if you all were a teacher today and had to put this in your classroom, what are some of the creative ways you would post this yourself in the classroom? Yeah, that's a good picture right there. That's a good picture. Hot pink, baby. So I lend it off to you. What would you all do? You?
I mean, I believe this stuff, right? This is a part of my personal faith.
Yeah, I
But
like this.
I don't want to put this in my classroom. I want to put up the classroom rules and keep the list very, very short. And that's that. Like I
So
don't
wait, you're trying to tell me is that one of your classroom rules is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife?
right. Like I don't.
Second grade classroom.
Yeah. Like what? I mean, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not murder. I mean, I think all relevant, but totally displaced. And I think this kind of stuff makes people become sacrilegious. Like you're pushing people to move to a place of, and I'm speaking because this is what I believe this stuff. I just don't think it's appropriate in a classroom. And I'm just wondering why local churches and pastors don't feel strong enough to teach this on Sundays or Wednesday Bible study or whatever. And why folks feel like they need to try to make this a movement in schools. I just don't understand. I don't know. So if I worked here, I don't know that I would post it. You know, I guess I just be getting
Well, you have to.
office.
Oh, damn. All right.
Call me in the office, or I guess I got to look for another school, another state. You know, because this no.
Well, here's a quick proviso, and then David, hand it off to you. Here's what's interesting. So if you are one of the school districts that has contested this legally, you don't have to put it up. And there's this weird provision which says if you are donated a poster or donated the 10 Commandments, you have to put them up. But you do not have to spend any school money putting it up yourself. Interesting provisions. David, what would you do?
Yeah, oh man, this is very bizarre.
Texas,
I would think, yeah, your state. I would say, I don't think these things have, are appropriate to have in elementary school classrooms, and even maybe not in middle school. I think in high school and maybe starting in middle school, if I were a teacher and I taught, social sciences, history,
right.
When looking at like world religions, I think it's fair activity to look at, like I'm looking at this door, looking at the different big world religions and looking at their kind of foundational like belief systems and, doing some work around figuring out where is there common ground here, where is there not? I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you looked at, all 5 of the big, religions of the world, you probably see a lot of crossover. And I think that there's some value in that, letting students do that discovery and not taking them anywhere, but just like literally letting them look and analyze primary source documents. Right. And then, I mean, I find it's interesting that I would also then ask, like, if I were teaching, I don't know how the sequence works, but if I were teaching like AP world history, maybe in Texas, I would ask students to analyze why do we believe that the state of Texas is mandating a particular version of the 10 Commandments? Like why the Protestant version when the original 10 Commandments come from the Torah, right?
Correct.
And so do some like deeper kind of analysis around that. To figure out like where is this coming from, because it's a mandate now.
Yes.
So I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it, but it doesn't mean that you can't look at it and allow students to, create their own viewpoints and opinions about it.
Yes, Doc.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about this before. I think that I think Texas is wilding. I'm Christian, like I said, I ain't the best one, but I think that we have Constitution for a reason. I think that people should be making a really big deal about this because once you allow one of those amendments to be broken, it just creates, and a slope. And my thing is, there's nothing to stop another state now from doing something maybe in a religion that I don't like. Maybe somebody wants to do one on the Church of Satan. I don't know, or maybe somebody, or whatever, right? I just don't think look, my religion and my faith is personal, and I'm gonna pray and do the things that I need to do or whatever the case is. But I just think that this was a litmus test to see what they could get away with and what they could start with. And then once you set this precedent, it's a really dangerous one. And I can just tell a lot of people didn't pass civics class. We don't know basic things around this and like why this is such a slippery slope. It opens the door to really start trespassing on people's like individual liberties or redefining them. And we've said this before, elections matter, things matter. The world is this country's in a really interesting place right now. We didn't even talk about the Charlie Kirk thing or whatnot, right? Like there's a lot of things that are happening. So I don't think this is going to be an episode where we kind of have a bunch of disagreement or fodder. I think it's just, I think people just need to kind of pay attention. I think they need to be aware, like there's been 8 threats to, 8 HBCUs have been threatened since this Charlie Kirk thing. You got to put the 10 Commandments thing up, and everybody feels like they're losing. I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? Like, some of these super conservative cats, white folks or whomever, feel like they're behind in things. I'm somebody that kind of leans left or left center or whatever. Like, I feel like, everybody feels like they're losing right now. And I don't know if it's ever good when the country's in that kind of, precarious situation. So I would be having conversations with my children. I think you should be having conversations with other people. I think you should be in your community having different conversations. And people are amped up right now. The left is amped up and the right is amped up. I mean, their Malcolm X got killed. Not my Malcolm X. I mean, I don't wish death on anybody. I'm not gonna take satisfaction in the way that man was murdered in front of his wife and kids. And at the same time, I'm not gonna mourn him like he was Malcolm X to me either. And so we got to be willing to have these conversations. We have to have the courage to. And I see a lot of capitulation in a lot of different ways, and from people that I might be somewhat surprised by in that way. And I think that that's a sign of things to come. So what do you stand on? What do you stand for? Who are you in these moments? And who are you when they show up at your door? The last thing I would say is, I'm an avid gun owner. I've talked about it, buying a few more, but I it's not a secret. I go to the gun range. I have a membership. I can go as many times as I want. Since that Kirk thing though, and all this stuff is happening, that range was packed. I've never had to wait in the history of moving here for a lane. They've upped tactical classes, and I saw families there. I saw black families, white families. I don't know if people know, I live about 25 minutes or so from where Charlie Kirk is from. So it's just been interesting. So with this topic, I think all of it is related. I think that there's a perfect storm, and I think people need to get their umbrellas ready.
So you're making a definitive comparison between the posting of the 10 Commandments and this kind of Christian right movement with the backlash that you're seeing with the Charlie Kirk assassination, and saying this is kind of an integrated scenario?
I think that there's a perfect storm of multiple movements at the same time. And these fringe groups, left and right, there's about to be unstoppable forces and immovable objects in multiple directions. And it's going to be an interesting cacophony of of things. So for instance, whether it's, we can talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. We can talk about what's going on with immigrants. We can talk about the FBA versus the non-FBA black people. We can talk about the issues amongst Latinos and brown people in this country. There's so many things that are about to crescendo. And now you have a legal precedent being set right now. Now we've gone from just cultural to a legal thing of the Constitution, and it is not being opposed. I think that there are so many different things. And then when you add Kirk on top of it, and you add the fact that until they found out it was this white boy that came from a certain type of family, there was a lot of heat that black people were getting from that stuff. And I'm like, this is Utah. There was no part of me that was like, ain't no Negro in Utah shot this dude. He would have been found in 2 seconds. We stand out. It ain't none of us there. So what I'm saying is not that they're necessarily related per se, but this is a gumbo pot that is about to boil over. And you got to know who you are in these times that are coming. You have to know, like, we've looked at history. Some people have, some people haven't, but there's about to be moments that test your mettle. There are going to be moments that test what your belief systems are. And even though I'm Christian, even though I believe in those commandments and I believe in those things, I think that for very smart reasons, and I got smoke for the founders of this country like any other, liberal S-type person or somebody that believes in democracy. I do think that many of those that things in that Constitution, they did get right. I think the Bill of Rights, they did get right. I think freedom of speech and religion, I think they did get right. And people want to see that go away. And Trump is already testing. He's testing what he can do. That administration is testing what they can do. And so I don't know if I'm fully answering your question, Omar, but I'm looking at I think this is a microcosm of a larger moment. And I don't know if we're ready, if we're prepared to meet the moment.
I would say that you're getting in that line of answering, and ultimately we've got like a follow-up question about that. I wonder, like, this is what I've been debating about, because I could debate this endlessly in my own brain. What I really come up with is hypocrisy as a larger scale issue. So wherein lies the justification of people's ethics when dealt with hypocrisy? So what I mean by that is we can, in my opinion, there is no debate about the Charlie Kirk issue as it comes to this 10 Commandment issue and the same level of hypocrisy. I don't think that it's even remotely okay to celebrate or post anything when it comes to like the death of somebody. And I think people love to have this like kind of voice and outrage, and I would arguably say faux outrage about something that they don't understand. And in the same way, it's like this Kirk guy was as Trump would say, he was a bad dude. He talked deplorably about gays, LGBT community, Mexicans.
You said
blacks.
Trump would say? I think he got the Medal of Freedom posthumously already, but
yeah, no, it's one of his favorite phrases. Is like, these are bad dudes, Yeah, it's just to borrow a phrase from him to talk about somebody else. I don't think that this guy's life was worth celebrating at all. And I think that there's an immense amount of hypocrisy around people celebrating someone who I think was so anti-celebratory of what America is and where America is going. And I think this 10 Commandments thing has a direct parallel. And I dive into the hypocrisy because Ken Paxton is saying, hey, this is our history and legacy, but let's quickly dive into the history of Texas.
Well,
because the history of Texas is marred in sheer hypocrisy. They have violated, and I could literally go one by one and give you the exact example of how the founding of Texas as a state, as a republic, as its own country violated every single one of those commandments.
I mean, I don't disagree, and I didn't mean to cut you off, David. I think we're for left-leaning people. I think we range in how far we lean left or liberal, but I think we're for left-leaning people. I do think there were many people that loved that dude. I'm not one of them, but there were many people that loved that guy. I don't think that everybody would agree with us around what these values are or things of that nature, right? Like, it would be nice if we did have like a conservative person that could articulate in those ways. I think we're also talking to the choir. I think most people watching our show knows about Texas or knows that Texas has kind of a reputation around certain things, right? I think what people may not know is that the gerrymandering that's happening of like even certain places, any place that is a Democrat stronghold in Texas those lines have been redrawn. I think that this is a multifaceted war that's happening, but everybody is also consumed in what they're consumed in. I'm Black. I'm worried about a lot of Black issues. If you're Palestinian or Jewish, you're having a different conversation. If you are rural, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so much happening at once.
Yeah,
and
but I will throw a little bit. I will throw a little bit into this pot, because let me say this: Sure, we are for left-leaning liberals. Sure. However, what I would get into is that we can easily say, where is this conversation going? But I would also say, I don't think people, inclusive of the four of us, would have a synchronistic idea if shit went down today and people had this civil war that we were talking about, and we had a clean slate, and we said, okay, what are all the things and precepts and ideological perspectives that we agree on? I don't even think the four of us in a blank slate scenario would fully agree on the tenets of society. And I can sure shit guarantee that this state or this country would have a like monochronistic idea about where society should be headed and what are the precepts that we believe in. And it's like always indicative of like, hey, we go to Mars. It's a blank slate. We get to recreate society. Should the rich be in control because they have the resources to provide? Should the intellectuals be in control because they've done the studying? Should the workers be in control because they're the ones tilling the land and figuring out how to feed everybody? Should the religious people be in charge because they have these, quote, ethical precepts about what should be done? What I'm getting at is like, Doc, you can have your civil war all day long, and even the four of us could have some semblance of right now agreeing about something as simple as posting the 10 commandments. But I don't think the four of us would even have a remote level of similarity in our agreements of where things should be headed. You're like, they should be libertarian. Let's have guns for all. I'd be like, I would eliminate every gun. I am a gun owner. I enjoy having them, but if I had carte blanche to be like, this is what we're going to do, I'd eliminate, I'd wipe them all out from the face of existence, including that of the world, the military, nuclear armaments. I'd go full Kennedy and get rid of all of these nuclear bombs everywhere in the world. Right now, we're having this debate because I think the United States is at a ludicrous state of we don't know where the hell we're at, and we don't know which way to go. And this 10 commandments thing is only a way of like, I believe in this. Like, dude, you want to start getting into the 10 commandments and shit, dude? Like, you want to start getting into the religious precepts of like putting people into a position where they have to believe in a Judeo-Christian ideology? Like, I would never force that on anybody. You want to believe in that make-believe? That's okay. Like, you want to believe in the Bible, which is in my opinion, a fictional book of literature that was based off of like old Egyptian stories and the stories of the Sumerians. We can get into that because you're going to base some ideological perspective on a work of fiction. I'd have a huge beef with that shit. But this is the reckoning that the United States is in right now, is do we actually want to figure out what's going to happen afterwards? Because while we're debating the tenets of posting the First Amendment, your right-wing institutions are trying to eliminate any kind of democracy whatsoever. And the far left are screaming too much about cultural wars to even realize what the fuck is going on. But no one has a semblance of what should be thereafter. And that is what I'm asking today. That is the precept of like, okay, what happens? What happens when we wipe it all out?
You know, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it happen now. I mean, obviously with the Charlie Kirk situation, like he was a Christian man, this push towards Christian values. I'm seeing a huge push of religion into matters of like public government, public official discourse. And that's a problem for me. Because I mean, we want to get back to this Texas and 10 Commandments. I mean, it's a clear violation of the Establishment Clause that's written into the Constitution, right? They're like picking a particular religion over others, right? They're mandating it in a public institution, public schools across Texas. That's very. I don't understand how people can just kind of not see that and just like, Texas is different than California, right? The biggest, I think the biggest religious group in the country now is Christian, but you can break that down into different versions of Protestants and and Catholics and others. I think, so that's definitely the biggest block. But there's like almost half of this country is not as identified as not being religious at all. So we're talking about a subset of people that choose to practice some kind of identify as practicing religion. And in Texas, your numbers are definitely like higher on the Christian end than California's are. When you look at Christianity in Texas, you have higher percentage of Protestant practicing Christians. In California. We're higher on the Catholic side, right? And so then it becomes, is it like a states' rights issue? Like if that's your big demographic, can your government leaders like cater to that group? Because in California, then, maybe we put up the Catholic version of the 10 Commandments, and we also mandate that everybody learn the official language of California, which is Spanish, if we're going off of like demographics, right? So, for me, there's like the church and state separation, and then the states' rights issue, which I think is a real slippery slope when it comes to stuff.
I think it is too. I agree.
Yeah. But we're in that slippery slope. That is exactly what this is all about. It is creating the slippery slope to essentially say, hey, shall we use religion as a tool to control people? Because ultimately, like, look, dude, like, I am such a huge First Amendment guy. If you want to believe in Jesus, that's awesome. I want to protect your right to do that. If you want to believe in the Bible, I want to protect your right to do that. If you want to wear a cross, I protect your right to do that. But don't force that shit on me. Every time I get into a conversation with about like some nun or someone about Jesus, I like fucking decimate them because they don't even know the history. They don't know the Bible. They don't actually know what they're talking about. What it is this cyclical bullshit about faith and faith alone. And I'm like, cool, look, you want to believe in that? Great. Don't thrust that on me. But that is what is being thrusted on. Is the inception of Christianity wasn't one of divinity. It was in its original precept when it was like 32 AD.
Oh, Mark, I think I'm losing the question. Oh, can you just state it for me one more time? Because I want to make sure. Because the way I'm looking at it is my conversation is not about religion. It's about forcing the right of any religion on any person in the separation of church and state, right? Like, so I just want to, and I know we haven't had Jube hop in.
If you look at the first question, we're talking about just as a grounding, what is the line between cultural heritage and religious indoctrination? And not just in public schooling, I think in the public in general. So question, what is the difference or what is the line between cultural heritage, which Texas says it's celebrating, and a religious indoctrination, which I'm saying they're doing?
I would agree that this is definitely a form of religious indoctrination. Again, I think the whole thing is America trying to become a Christian cult. It is, again, Jesus, that's who I believe in. It's my Lord and Savior. I believe in the Bible. People say whatever they want to say. That my faith is grounded on that, right? But I also, and I also look at the way Jesus walked, right? And everybody who mirrors how he walked, right? If you study Jesus, whether you're a Muslim and you think he was not the Son of God, you think he was just a prophet, whatever it is, he had this good nature about him and the way that he walked and the way that he treated people, right? And I think if we had more people in the world and in the government and in politics and in schools and in industries that walked like he walked, whether they believed that he was the Son of God or not, whether they wanted to believe the whole Bible or not, we would have a better world, right? Because in essence, that's the kind of world we want, a world that has a lot of love, a world that has far less judgment, far less hatred. You want to say that Charlie Kirk was a Christian man, but the way that he spoke was so hateful, right? And so that is the real problem. The real problem is y'all don't know how to love. Y'all don't know how to agree to disagree and to respectfully treat people that you don't agree with, right? Or you don't understand where they're from or their culture, whatever. That's the real problem. And so because you don't want to do the fucking work to sit down and have conversations with people that are different from you, you want to just control them and stick shit up in the classroom like that's going to change something. And it isn't. Yeah. not going to change the behavior. It's not going to change people's belief system, because when I look at you, I don't see what that is supposed to be stopping people from doing. I don't see you being a poster child for what the 10 Commandments says, or for what Jesus taught, or for what Mahatma Gandhi taught, or for what, any figure in any religion that people try to model their lives after taught. Love, peace, and all of those things. So until we can get that right, we will continue to be in this confusing place filled with a bunch of BS, because we won't do the real work. And that's what happens when people don't want to do the real work. They shift to a place of control, because that's the only way you're going to get people to move. Fear and control. And this whole, all the politics now, that's all it is about: fear and control, and shifting people and threatening people to make them do what they don't want to do, right? So that you can get what you want. And then you're right.
I forget who said this. When the only tool that you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Mm-hmm. You're just like, boom. So a quick question for you, Omar. And I didn't see this in the article. Is there a curriculum that comes along with this? Like if I'm teaching first grade, if I'm teaching first grade and I have to put the commandments up in my classroom, do I get like an instructional guide?
No.
No,
man. No.
Probably. I mean, they probably will. They probably will create one.
Right. But okay, so I want to see, how do you teach?
I had to ask. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good question. I want to see the lesson plan for not coveting your neighbor's wife. I want to see the lesson plan for that. When somebody else sitting up in there in these positions, and y'all already doing that because you sleeping with her right now. Like, what are we talking about?
And again, this is why I was asking for clarification on the question, because
I got a lesson plan for that.
I'm Baptist, I'm Christian, but for me, the conversation, I don't care if it's the greatest religion ever or the worst or whatever the case is. The Constitution's that distinctly, the Establishment Clause, the Free Exercise Clause, distinctly says, like, we will not interfere with the free exercise of individual faith, meaning that we will also not put faith on other people. Like, that's why I'm not about to go into having to explain my level of Christianity. It is not for me to say whether Charlie Kirk is or is not a Christian. I'm not. This is how we get lost in this sauce, because we're now debating the thing that's supposed to be prohibited anyway. Like, it does not matter. Yeah. It's like, that's the point. That's the point. The point isn't the conversation should never move off of this is breaking the Constitution. So I think your first question is a good one of, no, it's bullshit to say that this is just a Texas cultural thing, because it is directly an issue of divinity. It's directly an issue of religion. The conversation has to stop there, because once you start like trying to make, this religion better than this religion, or these are the tenets of this, or we need to be in, we need to do these things, you don't get to tell me what I need to do regardless, right? That's the whole reason the United States in large part was created, because people got tired of a king and queen and the church ruling over their lives. So you're trying to turn this into England 2020, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's why I was asking for the clarity, because by even engaging in this form of conversation, we are complicit in the decimation of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution that a lot of people died for. That was why I was asking the clarity. And again, political science nerd buff shit, right? But it's like, that's why it's hard for me to even engage with the question in an authentic way, because I'm like, it shouldn't be a question. It's like, well, if I'm about to burn somebody up, right? A human, should I use charcoal or should I use propane? And then we start debating, well, propane, if you actually, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, you can't burn people up.
I forgot. Yeah.
you can't do that. So that's why, Omar, I think it's a great topic. That's why I'm like utterly like, wait, what is happening? Right. Like, I'm engaging with the thing, that's what I'm saying.
So can I tag on to? I was just reading what the ACLU released in terms of making sure that schools know that they are still responsible for protecting students' First Amendment rights. And I guess I'm a little confused about, like, if the federal law says don't do it, then how could the state law come and say do it? Like, which one is the preeminent law?
Well,
right?
again, but that's what David was saying, right? It's an issue of states' rights. Where do states' rights begin and feds? So, for instance, right?
And historically, Texas is always, they call it the Lone Star State for a reason. Right. Historically, they always believe that the rules don't apply to them. But go ahead,
right.
Charles.
And they flirted with seceding multiple times, right? They wanted to be their own thing. And like, so again, like, so for instance, for those that are listening, I think that was a good question, Jubilee, because it allows me to expound. California is weed is legal for recreational use in California. Weed is not federally legal, right? So we
don't have weed.
So we have Oaksterdam. Oaksterdam was in Oakland. Okay, it was a big thing. A lot of people could learn how to do it or whatever the case was. They could learn how to grow it and go to school for it and all that stuff. And then the Obama administration came as the feds and shut it down because they have that right as the Fed, right? So right now, because everything is so murky, because everything is not clear, you have all this kind of things, this room where things are swiveling. That's the question that comes up. Can the feds, so when the new president comes in, if there's a Democratic president that comes back, can that president and the feds then go in and say, this is unconstitutional? So we've had
maybe Kash Patel will do it. Maybe Kash Patel will send in the FBI to take these down from every single Texas public classroom, right? Right.
So those are the questions, right? They've muddied the water so much. It's so cloudy. You can't see through it. So now we're having fringe conversations that's actually giving them license to break the Constitution. Listen, there was wars fought over this. Yeah. Wars have been fought over this.
I have a question. So as a parent, right? Mm-hmm. What's my right, right? Because at home, at my dinner table, right, or at my breakfast table or whatever, we're gonna pray, we're gonna talk about Jesus, we're gonna read the Bible, we're gonna do all the things, right? And that's my way of equipping my sons to be who they're gonna be and be great in the world and manage whatever happens on a daily basis, right? I don't expect them to go in the classroom and see that. So as a parent who is a Christian or a parent that's agnostic, right, doesn't follow any religion at all, Muslim, whatever, what are my rights, right? Because if the feds are saying, hey, you got to still uphold students' rights, and the school is telling the teachers, hey, you got to put this up, then wouldn't it allow for families to at least push back and say, look, I don't want this in my child's classroom? Like, where does the parent fall in all of this?
Yeah, civil disobedience. You know, like that's where constitutional lawyers come up. That's where lawsuits go, right? So the next step of this is there should be a wave of lawsuits, right? That hopefully get to the state Supreme Court. Here's the thing. Now, the state Supreme Court has already kind of decided that they rock with this, right? So then you go into civil disobedience. So it's like, there's a progressive step that needs to happen, but it's like, hey, I know my rights, whatever, boom, boom. And then there's always the option, which is not true for everybody, which I understand, but some people are like, well, if it's a state's right thing, I will live in a different state. That's what people will say, right? So like, look at abortion. The way that there are some places where abortion is legal and some places where are not. And then that's when they start to say things, right, in the counter. Well, if you treat somebody from a non-abortion state here, we will prosecute you on the federal block. Like this is where constitutional lawyers are about to really earn their money. So I think you ask a really good question, Jubilee, and the answer is not very clear right now because we have a current administration and you're talking about Texas, which is doubly super conservative and conservative. Like, and again, this shit matters. This is why Omar and I were going off on the Democrats early in the process and saying, yo, if you're saying that democracy is on the ballot, then how about we run better campaigns? How about we not play these social games? How about we not do this identity thing right now and have an actual strategy to win? You know what I'm saying? Instead of just trying to one up and be heard. Like this shit has consequences, and this is the state that we're in. The same way that this is how conservatives felt about Obamacare. They felt that it was unconstitutional, right? I didn't have as much of a gripe with that because I agree with it. I agree with those things, but these are the issues of the day, and we're just not, it feels like on some level our side is just not used to the rabbit having the gun. Well, guess what? The rabbit got a lot of guns right now. So what is it? How do you prepare? How do you get ready? What does the Democrats bench look like? What is the ACLU and the NAACP and all these lawyers, right? Like this is where Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP used to be really big. This is how Thurgood Marshall made his bones. He made his bones with like Brown versus Board. He made his bones of like, these things are not constitutional. Let's challenge it on this level, because that's what is supposed to happen in a democracy. And if that all fails, then what happens is a shot gets shot. Right. And some people feel like the shot to Charlie Kirk was that, right? Or like, that's how you get into wars. If you study how the Civil War actually started, right? Like these conversations, well, it was like, and then when the North told the South, you can't count slaves as part of your population because that would give you a majority, because these people don't have right, no representation, no taxation without representation. And then that's where the 3/5 compromise came. The 3/5 compromise came because the North and the South could not agree if slave owners could say, well, I got more votes because I got 800 slaves. Well, we don't have slavery up North. And then that's how this stuff continues to roll on. Again, I know it's getting very nerdy, but again, people have to understand civics. Like, and when we don't, these things are allowed to happen. I'm telling you what the sequence is, though. And the sequence ends in people shooting people's heads off.
Mm-hmm. And might I add that Johnny still doesn't know
how to read.
Hey, maybe, there you go. The benefits of being illiterate. You can't read.
The 10 Commandments they went and put on a damn classroom. He can't read that either. So we just lost.
They will make it a picture show.
I love what happened today, because ultimately this was going to be a conversation of agreements, and it got very, very spicy, and we need to close this out. So we got about 3 minutes to close us out. And look at that. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Texas is whacked, by the way. But I'm gonna totally, jump into closing thoughts. Who wants to go first? Because I'm happy to get us started.
I'll go. I don't got nothing else to say.
Please.
I want Johnny, Pablo, Luis, Margaret, Ella, Bella, Jesus, all 12 disciples, Moses, Abraham, Louis, okay, Mumu, Nene. I want them to be able to read, do math, think critically, and be great in the world. That's it. Can we just do stuff that's
a great mission statement for a school.
That's right.
Yes. I think I'm gonna start a non-for-profit called Make Johnny Read, or Johnny Can Read, or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's my final thought over it.
I think it's going to be interesting to follow this, the injunction, and figure out where that leads. If it ends up heading back to the Supreme Court, we probably know what's going to happen there. Mm-hmm. But I guess there was a 1980 case that went to the Supreme Court. That court was a very different court. So we'll see. But I want to read a passage from the Gospel of Matthew 6:5-6. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So I think if Jesus were here with us today, he'd be like, this is not okay.
Mm-hmm. He said that on South Park, by the way.
There you go.
Oh,
I would say my final thoughts, man. I think the conversation was great, and I think you did a great job of steering it, Omar. My thing is this: it's I was on some other shows when that Kirk thing happened. We did that 3 the Hard Way show, and we had like 2,200 people live in there, right? And I think that's because it's a lot of people that's afraid right now. We're trying to figure out what's happening or what things are. I would say you have to be prepared. I would say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. I think protect those that you love, protect the institutions and the spaces that you love. Listen, I come from a people that allowed a white boy to come into their church in South Carolina, and they prayed together and they worshiped together. And then he killed every single person in there and ended up getting taken to get a hamburger by the police afterwards. That's where you live. Sometimes we have to accept the facts of what things are and prepare and be ready for, hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. I think that churches need to start having armor bearers again. I think that our schools, we need to make sure they are protected. You need to be vigilant. I think regardless of what part of the aisle you live on, I think that every crazy side of this thing has fringe people that are crazy. I think that they are crazy people on the left. I think there are crazy people on the right. And I think that right now, the silent middle needs to start getting very loud. I think right now, the people with common sense, I think right now, the people that just really want to work and make sure their kids have a good education and are safe. And the funny thing is, I just remember the 80s when people refused to talk about politics and religion. I remember being like a very snooty kid in the 90s, like, why y'all scared to stand on what you like? And now it makes sense. There was a reason that people didn't engage in this stuff, because there won't be agreement. And when there's not agreement, what is the doctrine? What is the paper? What is the thing and the word that we stand on as a country? What was the thing that made us special in the first place? And if we allow that to be eroded, then we don't appreciate it, and then you don't deserve it. And I don't want to be a part of that. And so I think that this thing can turn around in some ways. I think that at some point the adults have to stand up of Democrats and Republicans. And I know that there are other fringe groups, but those are still the two biggest. And there needs to be some type of coalition, some bipartisan coalition of people that are like, this shit has gone too far. We need to hit the reset button, and they need to be prepared to do what's necessary in order to hit said reset button. We can no longer let fringe groups create and run and be in charge of the moral direction of this country.
Well said. But I'm going to add to that, is one of our fringe groups people of religion? And I really want everyone to question that today, including our audience, including everybody that's co-hosting the show, because I will say this, as Rage Against the Machine so aptly said, killing in the name of, because Jesus and religion has been the greatest vehicle for murder in this world, which is standing diametrically opposed to what Jubilee eloquently said, which is a man whose representation of love, kindness, and generosity is done without reward, without recognition. The ideological perspective of that sect of Christianity is one of which, hey man, we're not supposed to be killing, going right back to the 10 Commandments. And yet these same people who are advocating for the 10 Commandments to be posted will kill in the name of Jesus, and will kill their fellow neighbor, the 11th commandment, in order to ensure that religious doctrine is brought back into the United States, which is exactly what Doc and I are talking about. In the immortal words of the song of Hulk Hogan, I am a real American. I can sit here and talk about America and its history to my dying breath, because I got to tell you, I've read all the fucking books and I know what America is all about. And America has nothing to fucking do with Jesus. It is about your ability to love Jesus if you wish to, without infringement. Love Allah without infringement. Love Buddha without infringement. So that someone like me, who does not believe in any of this shit, will not infringe upon your ability to believe in what you believe in, because I believe so adamantly that what being an American is all about is this precept and this Constitution. I fucking love it. I fucking love the Constitution. I love this idea that we can be so free and liberal with one another, to not have religion control shit, because I actually don't like religion at all in any of its forms. I think it is indoctrination at its best, but that is, Doc, what we're fighting for. Because the Christians of this country and that middle is staying quite silent as people are murdering in the name of. And I wonder if the chickens are going to come home to roost, because the American experiment is what's in debate right now. And it's going to be the Americans themselves that will stand up by their principles to decipher whether or not America is going to exist or not. And I am sick and tired of their fucking acquiescence and their fucking silence. Stand up for what you fucking believe in. That is it. That is our show.
Yeah, you have been part of another episode of the South Star Classroom. For Omar, that's David, that's Jubilee. I am Charles, and we'll see you all next week, same bad time, same bad station. Please like, share, subscribe. Please leave a comment. Share this with your friends. Share it with 5 people. If everybody does that, we'll continue to grow. In the meantime, and I mean this is not just a sign off. Take care of yourselves.
Yes,
and
please.
God bless. Peace.
Bye.